Hello. Hi, Yoko.
Hi, my Kiko.
How are you? How's it going?
I'm great. I'm like, didn't sleep that much because I'm so excited. Kind of great though, or just like hyped and like ready to go. I'm having a great time with this.
Amazing. Well, we're so excited to hear all about it. And that's where I want to start your journey to this film, your first feature. Tell us about Unseen and how you got here.
Oh my goodness. Unseen has been it's a long journey to get to Unseen. I've loved filmmaking since I was a little girl in Minneapolis. But to actually become a director of a feature length film was, almost 2 decades long. That included a lot of film school, that included a lot of, waitressing jobs, that included a lot of, getting support from organizations like WIF and, CAPE, and just like a lot of survival to get to this point where I finally got to make a feature. Yeah.
And talk a little bit about, you are now officially a feature director, but we know you also direct episodic and have done shorts. It's how we first met you. Um, what was that journey like, and how do you, for aspiring feature directors out there, what was the process like to get, increasingly longer formatted types of content under your belt?
Yes, I will say that all the short films that I made, even all the digital content that I made as to survive as far as like work goes, all led up to being like training ground to be able to make this film. Like I'm so grateful, because I just remember like the first few short films I made, right out of Cal Arts, I made my first narrative short film. And I just remember how nervous I was and how I was getting like stress pimples and just like, and the story, now that I look back, really didn't have anything to do with me authentically. So all the short films was such an incredible experimentation process as to find my voice. I think a lot of people hear people be like, you got to find your voice. You got to find who you are as a filmmaker. And it can feel very elusive and like hard to really understand what that means. But for me, yeah, especially making like my thesis film Kimi Kabuki really allowed me to find like, oh, I really want to talk about what it means to be, of people's perspective of Asian women versus who we actually are, or when it comes to conversations about sexuality. That film is about a woman, a housewife that follows her husband to a porn convention and like meets his favorite porn star and learns about communication from her. So that short film, even though it sounds so different than this thriller Unseen, was my training ground to really learn how to tell emotionally grounded stories where you really get the audience to care about your characters. And that skill is something that I learned making that short film, and I carry to this day to Unseen. So without having made all my shorts, I wouldn't have been prepared to do Unseen and to create this final movie.
I love that. And I think the thread of communication, obviously so palpable in this particular film, which is incredible. I'm so excited for people to watch it. I want to talk to you a little bit about the process of how you envisioned the direction of the film, both artistically and technically. There's a lot of really technical elements in the film, from splitting screens to interesting editing choices, but then also clearly your aesthetic comes through like no other. And if you haven't seen it yet, again, you all are in for such a treat for the sheer aesthetics of it alone. But talk to us a little bit about, that combination of the many elements that you brought into it, and how you approach the direction.
Yes. So I naturally gravitate towards shiny, sparkly, colorful things, as you can see with my Unseen nails. So I knew that my instinct was going to go to infusion of style and infusion of just like, aesthetic spectacle. But the anchor for all decisions really had to be like, how can I get the audience to care about the characters, right? And like, how can I get the audience to not be bored by the technicality of two people talking over a phone and really start to care about them? So even when it came to, the split screen aesthetic that we built in, it was all in service of making sure that the camera was able to still create cinematography that would speak on the subtext of these women forming a friendship. So the split screen became a necessity to see them at the same time and to see them react to each other and make faces and hear one person encourage them and the other person respond to it. So seeing both of them on screen at the same time was a emotional necessity. And then on top of that, I was like, okay, how do we make these split screens not just normal split screens, but like fun ones that really go with the theme of the story as far as like the cracks in it. It's not just the middle, it's like fragments and like facets that we do with little slivers of windows and things. So we just, as first we had that kind of North Star of like, how do we engage in these women's emotional journeys with the camera and with the aesthetic of the split screens. But then after that, it was like having fun with it, creatively, like pushing the boundaries of it and seeing where we could push it.
I mean, it so comes through. I think there's like something happening every frame, every second where you're like, oh my gosh, wait, what was that? That's a new thing. I think additional complexity to the film, it's a super fun, exciting romp. There's also a lot of sociological exploration and themes and elements that are happening where you don't actually like pause and think about what that moment was. You're like, oh wait, was that, a comment on, racial disparity right now in this particular like patriarchal relationship, which might have just been my interpretation. But I think other Asian women in particular will watch and be like, hey, I know what's going on in this situation. So talk to us a little bit about, especially as you, work with the writers and the producers to like bring out some of those themes and elements, but also to keep it fun, right? So it wasn't a super heavy-handed political film, but obviously there's a lot of political undertone. What was that like?
Yeah, it's so funny. I think when you're as a director trying to infuse your own voice into a project, you start to I specifically start to go on instinct. I'm like, oh, this place would be more tense and interesting and like, meaty if they said this and they said this. And sometimes it's kind of almost like subconscious, like the fact that it's coming through the brain of an Asian American woman, I think immediately just lends to the commentary of what a relationship like that could be like, what the actual dynamics of domestic abuse could be like, what the power dynamics could be like. It's not like I set out to be like, oh, I want to make this commentary in this power dynamic between the couple, but because it filtered through me, I think it immediately became something that was saying something about that dynamic. But as far as like collaborating with the writers and the producers, like they were all very supportive of, again, I think they knew the direction that I wanted to take it and understood it. So we were all on the same train, making the same movie together, and just really let me infuse my authenticity into it. That, again, I think lended to some of the more sociological nuances that come up with who was cast and in what role and what they're saying to each other.
Yeah, and let's talk about this cast, these incredible performances from Midori and Jolene in particular. What was it like working with them? How did you approach the material with them? Again, keeping that balance between like a very dire, scary circumstance that these women are in, but also understanding the tone and feel of the film.
Yeah, again, I feel so blessed to get this, like, not just one, but two just incredibly, just like generous, talented actresses to be the two leads of the movie. And, from the very beginning, I think why they were right for the role was they had their laser focus on their role in the movie and like what those characters are going through. And so they just, they never trivialized the situations. They just always were so real with what harm was potentially lurking in the darkness for their characters. So, what I communicated to them was stylistically, this film is going to be emotionally anchored with authenticity for them, and that's all they had to worry about. But I did give them a little preview that the villains will be a little larger than life, a little operatic, and the style is going to accommodate that. So I told them that the movie was going to push the boundaries of tone, but all they had to worry about was really the grounded reality of what they were going through with their characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works incredibly well. And like it's almost a new genre of filmmaking where you have the realism of the feeling plus like this incredible, fantastic visual surrounding it. I'm like, oh, I want all movies to be like this.
Yay! Yes, I love the combo. For me, like it's what I love to watch, so it's like what I love to make as well.
And how was it with the rest of the ensemble? As you mentioned, yes, your villains are incredible, over the top. The outstanding Missy Pyle, we love her always.
Yes.
But please tell us about the coming together of the characters, and did you all have conversations kind of as a group about what the outcome would be?
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily as a group, but individually, I think I spoke with everybody about, again, like what their focus and priorities should be. And I guess for me, from my style, actually, like I always like to go in and speak with the actors and ask them, like, what do they need? What do they want as far as like background and prep and context that they would like that would be actually helpful to them? Because, some people want all the nitty gritty background story that's not in the movie. Some people don't want that, just want to play the moment. So that's kind of the process I first went to. But again with Missy Pyle, she already, she brings the comedy and the horror simultaneously. So like that skill is just incredibly just an amazing asset that she just brought naturally. So there was, I didn't have to have a conversation about that. Like she brought it. She knew what the assignment was. And there was just so much amazing ad lib that she did, and like her and Jolene just gave each other permission to just be absolute dirtbags to each other, and so there was a lot of improvisation of their dynamic. But for me, the specific thing about the couple, the Carol and her husband, was like never for me as a creator, as this filmmaker, trivialize the danger she presents, even if there's humor and how ridiculous she is. It's never, I always want to take her threat seriously, so whether it's the sound or the music choices, I never wanted to make them seem like cool. I just always want to make them seem like scary with especially with like the horror score. And with Michael Patrick Lane, I think like he was he was really like a really amazing find, because even though the character is written to be this villain who's so out of touch and who's bringing so much harm to somebody, like he to me brought a level of he was able to, even though he's nothing like this person, right? He's like such a sweetheart. I think he actually had a hard time playing somebody this cruel and evil and out of touch, but he brought authenticity to that. Like I could see in that character's eyes that he believed he's the victim. Like he created this whole world in his own self that like where he was the one who was harmed and he was the one who was hurt. And I think that he was able to bring those layers to make us, for me, for a moment, be like, wow, you really believe this. You're not just saying this, like you believe that you're the one who's been harmed here. So I think they both brought really amazing things to the villains.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think, and again, talking about kind of the sociological state we are in our world, that makes a lot of sense. We do need to empathize with our villains because, things are not so clear cut like that in
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. And the more you can feel like you're not the more I can make the villains not one dimensional and just a placeholder for evil, the more human they can seem, the more scary they are. Because sometimes you might be like, I know that guy. He's a
am I
friend
that
of
guy?
mine.
Totally.
Yeah, or am I that guy? And then, oh, wait, I've said stuff like that. I haven't done this particular crime, but I've thought things like this, So I think that can make things even more powerful and accessible.
For sure. A quick pivot, because I know we're almost out of time, but I'd love to hear about your relationship and our relationship with WIF and your career from WIF Shorts Night to now Reframe Rise Fellowship. Talk to us a little bit about how we've, been in your life and what that's been like for you.
Yes, I always say I feel like I've been like the model beneficiary of like the Women in Film organization and your mission and why you exist. Like ever since I graduated from AFI, a baby out of the womb of film school, like scared of what's to come in the world, like Women in Film, I joined it right away. And it was immediately this like continued community, like outside of film school, where I could, be with my peers and all of us kind of like struggle together to keep going out of film school. And so I was a part of the mentorship circle back then. And I also did, 2 shorts women's nights where you guys supported my short films that was coming out, and I was making independently. I think I did the women in film financing intensive. I did the speed mentoring intensive. Like, I did so many things through you guys, and every step of the way, it just made me feel like validated and supported. And just feeling like there was always a way to bridge, to the next, like point of my career, and just can I make it to the next point? Can I make it to the next point? And it always felt like the community was there to say, yes, like, you can do it, you can keep going. And so, oh yeah, I mean, I'm a with, like, I'm a stan. I love you guys so much. This has been, truly short filmmaker, documentary filmmaker to feature filmmaker. I feel like Women in Film has kind of supported me along the entire way. And now as a Reframe Rise cohort fellow, like, I feel, again, like, so grateful and such, again, a beneficiary of the work you guys do to help all of us. So.
Well, we're still here. We're here for the entire journey. We're so excited for you. Thanks, Yoko. We love you. We support you. We're so excited for Unseen to come out on March 7th. Everyone should watch it. And we'll be seeing so much more of you soon.